Welcome to our presentation on registering as a childminder. My name is Maria Marafa and I own and run EYFS Resources. We're going to take you through some steps of how to register as a childminder, but the first thing we recommend anybody wanting to come into this profession is to look at the EYFS framework. There are other statutory guidance documents that you need to be looking at as well. As we've just said, the EYFS Framework 2017, which sets the standards for learning, development and care for children from birth to 5. Then there's the Working Together to Safeguard Children 2015 document. This document supports practitioners in understanding their safeguarding obligations. It's a guide to interagency working to safeguard and promote the welfare of children. Another document to consider here is the Know-How Guide. This is the 2-year check. Basically, you carry this out when the child is in and around 2 years old. The guide explains how this can be carried out, offers valuable insights on how practitioners can carry out the checks and information shared with relevant professionals, including parents. It's also at this point essential that you familiarise yourself with the following documents: the Prevent Duty and British Values, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the SEN Code of Practice, the Equality Act 2010, and the Data Protection Act, which will be GDPR from May the 25th, 2018. And that is the General Data Protection Regulation. Let's have a quick look at the registers. When you apply to Ofsted, you need to think about which register you want to be on. There are 2 registers. The first register is the Early Years Register. This is the one where you intend to care for children in the 0 to 5 age bracket, which is the EYFS age groups. The Childcare Register, which has 2 parts: the compulsory part for children that are 5 to 8 years, and then the voluntary part for children over the age of 8 years, which obviously is voluntary. So you want to be looking at these 2 registers to see which one best suits the childminding career that you want to pursue. So why do we have the EYFS? Let's look at the links to legislation. Firstly, the EYFS requirements are given legal force under the Section 39 of the Childcare Act 2006. The EYFS requirements must be met in order to gain and remain registered with Ofsted. So what is the purpose of the EYFS? Well, simply the EYFS is there and it lays down the requirements in the following 3 areas. There's learning development, assessment, safeguarding and welfare. It came into force in 2008 and was reviewed again in 2012, reviewed again in 2014, and then a further amendment was made in April 2017. This is the EYFS that you will be looking at now and will be following. During the process of applying to become a childminder, you will have a registration visit from an Ofsted inspector. During the visit, you will have to demonstrate that you understand and can implement the EYFS. You'll also have to demonstrate how you will safeguard children. So, the first thing I recommend you doing is to download a copy of the EYFS or buy one and literally read through like it's a Bible. It's really important that you understand everything that's required of you. After registration, Ofsted will carry out regular inspections to ensure that you continue to meet the requirements of the EYFS. Let's have a look at the registration process. So, okay, the first thing to do is to think about completing an Introduction to Home-Based Childminding course. If you already have a qualification or training in early years, perhaps you've got a level 2, level 3, level 4, whatever it may be, MVQ, degree, and it's in early years and you've had experience with the EYFS, the foundation stage, you don't actually have to undertake any further training. You've already been trained and you can pop that on your Ofsted registration. If you're coming in without any training whatsoever, then obviously you have to do a training. We do the training as part of our membership, but you can access an array of training online and face-to-face with your local authority. It's worth just checking that out. You also have to complete a safeguarding course which meets the requirements of the EYFS 2017. This is mandatory. You also need to complete a 12-hour paediatric first aid course that covers all of the criteria that's written on page 36 of the EYFS. You can do blended learning with this, which is 6 hours practical and then 6 hours theory. Some organisations allow you to do 6 hours theory online, then you do the practical. What we do at EYFS Resources is that at the moment you're sent a work booklet, you read and then you answer the questions. You bring that booklet with you on the day of your training and give it to your assessor, and then they sort of assess you both on your practical and your theory, and then you walk away with your full 12-hour paediatric first aid certificate. You will also need to apply for a disclosure bar in service check, or DBS as it's commonly known. Again, fees apply for that. There are various providers that can offer this service, and this is on the Ofsted website as well. You apply for DBS checks for every member of the family that's over the age of 16. You also need to complete a health declaration booklet. You'll be submitting this to Ofsted. There is a fee involved, but this will differ as each doctor, surgeries are different. You need to think about the available space that you have in childminding, so your indoor space, your outdoor space. The EYFS does have specific ratios for that. So if you're going to be looking after children under the age of 2, then you need to be thinking about 3.5 square metres per child. 2-year-old is 2.5 square metres per child. 3 to 5 year is 2.3 metres per child. You also need to be thinking about your outdoor space, if you have access to outdoor space. If you don't, think about how you will ensure that children get outdoor activity. Where will you go? You might go to a park, forest school. There's so many things that you can do. How many children you can care for. Now in England, you can care for up to 6 children younger than 8 years old, and of those 8, a maximum of 3 can only be young children, and that's defined as any child up to from birth to age 5. Also, within those 3, you can only have 1 baby or under the age of 1. If a childminder can demonstrate to parents and Ofsted that the individual needs of children are being met, then exceptions are made. For example, if you're caring for sibling babies, continuity of care, but it's up to you to demonstrate how you can do that and that all the children in your care are safeguarded. Also, check with your local authority whether or not planning permission is required. That's actually childminder and then told, you can't do this, so please do check. There are differences in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. In Wales, childminders can care for up to 10 children under 12. Of that 10, they can't be, no more than 6 can be younger than 8. God, it's really muddly. No more than 3 can be under the age of 5. Normally, you wouldn't be able to care for more than 2 children under 18 months, although exceptions again can be made for siblings. To make things extra confusing, children aged 3 to 5 years who attend full-time education provision may be classed as over 5 for the purpose of ratios. In Scotland, you can care for up to 6 children who are under 12, providing that 3 of these children are not yet attending primary school and only 1 is in the sort of 0 to 1 age group. The Care Commission also says that it can vary the ratios at discretion. Again, this siblings, special educational needs and awkward premises. Not sure about that one. In Northern Ireland, you can care for up to 6 children. 3 of these may be under 5, usually 1 child under the age of 1. Again, exceptions, caring for twins and siblings. It's also worth noting that police checks are carried out on any individual living in the home that are over the age of 10. By this point, you'll be now ready to apply to Ofsted because you've done your training, you've done your first aid, you've done your safeguarding, you've done your health declaration, you've got references, and then you'll be updated. So as you can see on the screen, you get a check status, and this will just take you through the process. There is a fee to pay, of course, to Ofsted, and it shows you what the early years register is, which is £35. And a childcare register, the compulsory or voluntary, £103, and both registers £35. So it's worth just looking at those fees as well, making sure that it's financially viable. So let's apply and press send. You're required to set up a government gateway account and pay the registration fee, as just discussed. Any members of your family that require a DBS will also have to complete a EY2 form, and this will link to your registration. So it will all link in. So even though they've completed a separate government gateway account, which is what they need to do, it will still link into your account. And you're all what's called the waiting game. Ofsted have up to 12 weeks to process your application, but this is a perfect opportunity for you to think, fantastic, right? I can refresh my knowledge and my understanding of the EYFS. I can begin formulating my business plan, and I can think of names, I can get my policies, I can read through the early years childcare registration handbook, I can read over any registration guidance, go through my EYFS, my introduction to childminding notes, PowerPoints. Again, I can keep referring back to the 2017 framework. I can then start looking at my house and preparing my house and my outdoor area, preparing policies and procedures. I can look at how I'll keep children safe and healthy, hygiene routines, food choices, exercise, consider risk assessments, safeguarding procedures, health and safety issues. We also recommend highly doing a food hygiene course. Even though it's not a requirement, it really shows best practice. It really shows that you want to do this and you want to protect children and you just want to do this. There is a booklet which is Better Business, Safer Childminding. I'll get that link for you at the end. That's also fantastic to work through and will help you with your food safety. Let's now just take a few moments to consider the enabling environments. This is how you enable your home to become child friendly, a perfect learning environment. You'll be looking at how to, which rooms to use, which ones you're going to be using to care for, teaching in, what resources you're going to be putting into those rooms. Are there any rooms that you won't be using? Do you want your home-based setting to look like a mini nursery, a mini preschool? Or do you just want to keep it home-based so the children come in and it looks like a home, feels like at home? What kind of resources do you want to put into your setting? Will you be going for lots of plasticky type resources, or will you be going for more natural resources, wooden resources, open-ended resources? How will you accommodate the different age groups, including school children? So basically preparing your home and enabling the environment is actually key, and it's perfect for children to learn and to thrive. Pre-registration CPD file. CPD is continuous professional development. Basically, we advise having a living document, which is a bit like a learning journal. But it's yours. It's a file which you capture everything that you've been doing from day one until you finish, until you leave. I'm not just talking about the Ofsted registration process. I just mean until you end up finishing childminding. And this is a living document. So you can collect things like certificates that you've done. You can collect references. You can be reflective. You could write down what works, what doesn't work. You can put some of your policies into there, and it will also act as your reflective self-evaluation tool, and that's a valuable tool, that one is. How will you link the EYFS 7 areas of learning into the resources that you provide? Ofsted will not expect you to have resources for every area of learning. This is something that you will build up over time. Think about how you would demonstrate to the inspector on your visit, how you incorporate those 7 areas into your practice. Talk about the resources that you already have. Talk about any resources that you're hoping to get, like a wish list. The inspector will ask you about any routines that you intend to incorporate, as well as what activities that you plan on preparing, and these can include outings and trips. You will learn more about all of this on your pre-reg course, or if you've already done one, you will know what I'm talking about. Where we're incorporating the 7 areas of learning. How are we going, when we accept a child into our setting, how are we going to know where that child is at? What information are we going to look at and how are we going to gather it? Because Ofsted will want to see how you will guide children's learning and how you will support them in making progress. They will ask you what processes you have in place in order to ensure that you capture those starting points. Think about how you will gather this. You might have a early years passport to learning, which is the image that we've got on the screen. And in that captures things like date of birth, medical information, what the child can do, what the child's interests are, what they like to eat, everything. So when the day they start your setting, you can begin doing an early assessment review on that child. So you wouldn't do any formal observations probably for about 6, maybe 8 weeks. It depends on how you get to know that child. So you'll be doing what's called an early assessment review, pinpointing where they're at and sort of documenting that and getting to know the child. And that's when you can start to observe, assess and plan for that individual child. Just keep it simple. Incorporated into this would be the characteristics of effective learning. So basically, the unique child reaches out to relate to people and things through the characteristics of effective learning, which move through the areas of learning. It's like a wheel, which is why we've got the wheel. So you've got playing and exploring, active learning, creating and thinking critically. We all know that children develop in the context of relationships and the environment around them. This is unique to each family and reflects individual communities and cultures. So we will cover this in the pre-reg course in more depth, but I'm just wanting you to be aware of it, do some research on what characteristics of effective learning are. We've all got to have regard for the Equality Act as well, treating children differently but with equal concern. Ofsted will ask you how you will meet the individual needs of children. You are required to make reasonable adjustments, but no one's expecting you to spend thousands on revamping your house just so you can accommodate children with wheelchairs and that kind of thing. Obviously, ideally, if you can accommodate children with wheelchairs, that's brilliant. But if you can't, you do not need to go out and actively have to do that. We suggest reasonable adjustments would be you might want to put a ramp in or apply for funding, anything like that really. As you know, you'll have to comply with the Equality Act and also to actively promote British values in your setting. If you have undertaken your childminding course with us, we have already touched upon this subject already, and you will learn more about it in our subsequent. Ofsted will look at also how you support children's behaviour. They'll want to see how you actively promote behaviour in your setting, how you will work in unison with parents in order to promote positive behaviour. They'll also want to see some sort of behavioural policy and how you plan on sharing this with parents. Behaviour plans are fantastic actually. You can actually you could write your own as a starting point, but then as you start to integrate children into the setting, you can add what they think and what they expect and what you expect and write the policy together. It's good practice. Ofsted will also want to see how you work in partnership with parents. They will want to see how you will do this. They'll want to see how you keep parents fully informed. You can think about like welcome packs, include information such as what the ethos of your setting is and how you support children's learning. Keeping that two-way flow of information between yourself and the parent is key. You could do daily diaries. You might have a WhatsApp group. You might have a closed Facebook group. There's so many ways that you can communicate with parents now. But Ofsted will want to see how you do that. And obviously, if you're communicating through things like WhatsApp, social media, etc., they'll also want to see how you get the consents for that, picture sharing and data protection. Again, we can explore that in the pre-reg module. So the day of the visit is here. All we can say to you is make sure that you are fully prepared. Ensure that your policies and procedures are ready to go. Make sure your safeguarding policies include everything, including how and when to refer. So you should have all your details of your local safeguarding children's board in there and the relevant numbers that you need to be ringing in the event of a problem or for advice. Ensure that your risk assessments are ready, and we always recommend writing these down simply because they serve as an excellent tool and that you have the evidence in case something goes wrong. So you can always look back on documents that are tangible or on a database, but you can't do that if you haven't got written risk assessments. Prepare a file that you're going to use for the children. This could be the Early Years Passport to Learning, which we discussed earlier, and it includes details of personal details, medical information, starting points and interests. Enable your environment, both indoors and outdoors, so that it's ready for the day of your visit. You are demonstrating that you mean business and you are ready to be registered. Recommended to be or not to be. On the day, you will be told whether you'll be recommended or not. But please understand that you cannot commence work as a registered childminder until your certificate has come through and is being displayed. You can, however, advertise to the public, but you can't take any children until your recommendation turns into an actual, tangible Ofsted registration, i.e. certificate, and you've got to wait till that date. As frustrating as it's going to be, you've just got to wait. Once you have that certificate in hand and you've got your public liability in place, don't forget if you're employing someone, employer's liability as well, you are now ready to unleash yourself to parents in your local area. You are now an Ofsted registered childminder. So what next? You registered. Now what do you do? Well, if you've got a car, you could be looking at getting appropriate car insurance or upgrading to business. Talk to your insurance about what you're going to be doing. It's really essential to do that. Make sure your public liability is appropriate and meets the needs of your setting. Inform HMRC that you're now self-employed. You have around 3 months to do that. Inform your landlord, your mortgage people that you'll be childminding. Personally, we would have asked the landlord before we actually started childminding, because you don't want to get to this stage and find out you can't do it. The same with your mortgage. It's always best to find that out. Inform your home insurance company of your change of circumstances, and do shop around because you can get some really good deals. Register with the ICO, which is the Information Commissioner's Office. It's currently £35, but I think it's moving to £55 from May, when GDPR then kicks in. Ensure that any policies that you write from this moment going forward are in line and designed to work with the GDPR. This is really essential, and that's from May the 25th, 2018, because you'll be needing privacy notices for parents and for children. Again, this is explored in our GDPR modules. Inform the relevant organisations or benefits agency of the change of circumstances, because if you've gone from not earning to earning, this is going to affect certain type of benefits, and you don't really know what you're going to earn. So we recommend sort of overestimating, because it's better for them to owe you than for you to underestimate and you owe them. So really think about the pricing structure of what you're going to charge for each child, and what that likely is going to be during the course of a week, times that by 52 to give you a rough figure on full occupancy. Begin formulating your adverts, create a Facebook page. Facebook page, honestly, if you create a business page, it will share like wildfire. It will just go buff, buff, buff. It's a really good way to connect with parents. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a perfect way. Get a Facebook page if you can. If you're not on Facebook, you can look at putting ads in shop windows in your local schools. You can contact your local authority that will put you on their list, and this is all free. The more things that are free, the better. And good luck. Journey. And you're not alone. You can join our pre-registration group, where you will find thousands of childminders and experienced practitioners waiting to help you on your journey. You can also call me for a free chat, no obligation, about going forward. I'll provide you with all the information again that you require and point you in the right direction. You can call me on 01282 550 215. If you're looking to undertake a pre-registration course, we do have one. We've devised and developed one that you can do online and via a closed forum. We only accept 10 on each cohort, so we keep it cosy really. It's only £50, and it also includes food hygiene as well. I've put the link on the screen for the Facebook group, and we hope that you want to do your journey with us and become a childminder.